All right, hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to another live stream. This one is going to be fun. We're talking all about Aravaipa Strong, talking about this new watch I got called the Polar Grit X. Hopefully going to bring on a friend of the show, Dave Dillon. He's been on before. But yeah, we're just gonna hang out for a little bit. I don't think this one is going to be as long as they might have been in the past. I'm gonna shoot to be done a little bit earlier because I'm really tired after this whole day that I've had in this crazy experience. But I'm gonna explain all of that here soon. I'm gonna play a little intro video, give some people a little bit extra time to join us, and yeah. So sit back, relax, and I'll be back in just a second. All right, so we're back. Thanks everyone for joining again. See, there's a bunch of people here already. Not a bunch, but there's a few. Just fun to say that. But yeah, I hope you guys are doing all right. We are right in the middle of Aravaipa Strong. For those of you that are still doing that, we're started it. We're on day, what day is today? Today's day 6. Oh my gosh, it's hard to keep track. Yeah. 6 days in. So after 6 days, let's see, on this, I've been keeping notes on Notion, which is a cool note-taking and productivity app if you guys have not used it and are looking for one. I'm at 65.25 miles right now, and I've got 4 days left, so 35 more miles to go in 4 days. Should not be a problem, especially since there's the weekend in there, which always helps to have a little bit extra time. This weekend looks like it might get a little chilly again, though. Today was awesome. However, my run was super early in the morning, and I'll kind of explain why here in a second. But a few shout outs. Ultra Dad is back in the house. Thanks for joining, man. And then Cheesy Ches, hello from Singapore. What's up? Wow, that's awesome. What time is it in Singapore right now? Is it like the morning? Jody Runs, hi from Australia. Wow, there's people from all over the world here joining us. This is fun. But yeah, so if you guys didn't catch at the beginning, hopefully here in a few minutes, I'm waiting to hear back from him. Oh, yep, he just texted back. My friend Dave Dillon is going to join us. He's got a YouTube channel called Chase the Summit, and he's much better at explaining sports tech and all of that than I am, so I wanted to have him on again. And we're going to talk about this brand new watch from Polar, the Polar Grit. He also got one early release, and his video went up today. But yeah, so he's going to be on here pretty soon. Cheesy Ches, in Singapore, it is 9:03 a.m. Whoa, exactly 12 hours different from me. Wow, that's awesome. So how is Thursday going? Because it's still Wednesday here. Joel Walters says, checking in from Seattle. Awesome. And Stephanie Lynn, hello from Colorado. Wow, we are all over the place. This is awesome. All right, cool. So yeah, I was talking about Aravaipa Strong progress. If you guys don't know what that is, we are this race company out in Phoenix. I think they're from Phoenix, Arizona somewhere. They have a bunch of races, and a lot of them have been canceled this year. So they decided to do a virtual race. In this virtual race, you could pick your distance anywhere from 5K all the way up to 100 miles, and they gave you a window of 10 days to complete it. You also didn't have to complete the whole distance in one shot. You could do it all over the course of the 10 days. So I looked at it and I was like, I think I'm going to try to do the 100 miler in 10 days and spread it out over 10 days. And yeah, we're doing it. If you guys haven't been following along, I've been daily vlogging it too, which has been a wild experience. Daily vlogging is really, really hard, and I have a ton of respect for anybody that actually does that all the time, because I'm on day 5 and I'm like dying. No, it's all right. Okay, we're good to go. Okay, so cool. So Dave will be joining us in about maybe 10, 15 minutes or so. Dan Darling. Hey, Ryan, how's day 6 going? Legs fresh. Day 6, today, the legs are not so fresh. I'm 65 miles in over the course of 6 days. And yeah, today was especially rough. So to go back, I guess this all kind of like ties in together, but I was approached by Polar a couple weeks ago, and they just said, hey, would you like to talk? We're rolling out a new product soon, and we think it would be a good fit on your channel if you wanted to talk about it, and just let us know if you're interested. So I replied back. I was like, yeah, absolutely, I'm interested. And then we exchanged emails, went back and forth, found out that it's this brand new watch. It's this Grit X, and it's an adventure watch. It's really aimed for like trail runners, ultra runners, people that like to do like stage races, like long, like super long battery life, just super tough and rugged. Yeah, so anyway, we went back and forth and we did a couple of calls and all that. And then they sent the watch out, but it didn't arrive until yesterday. And I didn't actually pick it up from the post office until like 5:30 p.m. And the embargo lifted at 10 a.m. this morning, so we were allowed to post our videos at 10 a.m. And I ended up being a little bit behind because I tried to do, it was just like I tried to like do a first impression on a watch and figure out how it works and everything, go for a run, all in like the span of like 14 hours or something, 15 hours, something like that. And it was tough. So I was up super late last night, putting together notes, trying to explore the watch, filming a few things last night, and then slept for about 4 hours, got up at like 4:30 in the morning, ran 10 miles with it this morning, and then immediately was just like editing until I had to start my day job, and then was working back and forth at that. And then 10 o'clock passed, my video wasn't done yet. So I went up about like 12:30 or so. So I was behind DC Rainmaker and Des Fit and Dave, who we'll talk to here in a second, and a couple other guys. Kafuzi did one. So yeah, I was a little bit behind. So people all day today had probably already seen videos, but it's all good. This has been a blast, super fun experience, and just very thankful to Polar for including me in this. But yeah, so to answer Dan's question about how day 6 is going, the legs are not fresh because yesterday my run, I did 8.4 miles over lunch, which lunch has been a really good time for me to run. It's a good time. Like the weather is a little bit nicer. The sun's out. It's just a lot more fun running during lunch rather than in the dark in the morning. So yesterday I ran at lunch, and then this morning I got out the door at about like 5 or something. And so my legs only had whatever that is, like 16, 17 hours to recover from yesterday's run, which was just a bit shorter than I would prefer. And then today, the 10 miler, it was just like my legs just felt like junk, and I was tired. But yeah, tomorrow I'm probably I'll have a few extra. I'll have probably more like 30 hours to recover or something like that, because I'm going to run tomorrow during midday again. So tomorrow will be a little bit better. I'll probably only do like 8 miles or so as well. But yeah, that's what we got going on. Dan is from Illinois. Awesome. Cheesy Ches says, working from home, but multitasking, semi-lockdown in Singapore. Oh, man. But we runners are still allowed to head out and run alone or with people we live with. Man, things are still really crazy. I think it's going to be crazy for a long time. Dan says he's got 64 miles. Nice. You and me both. We're like right almost at the same thing. And then Laura Bellman, done with the 100. Awesome. Laura and I have been going back and forth on different social medias. And that's awesome. Congrats to you, Laura. Done with the 100. That's pretty cool. Congrats. And then 72 Nova, Illinois here too. Walked with a family tonight. 128 feet of altitude gain in 2.2 miles. Beat that. Yeah, that's probably more than I got today in my 10-mile run. Oh, man. Jody Runs has a question. I think we're going to save that. Jody, I'm going to save your question for when Dave gets on, because we're going to talk all things polar here in just a couple minutes. But yeah, so this whole thing with polar has been just super fun, and it's not so this like quick turnaround. I know a lot of the guys, like DC Rainmaker, has been using this watch for like 2 weeks. Some of the other guys I know had it for at least a week or so. But yeah, it was just not my style to whip up a video in like 8 hours. I didn't really feel like I didn't want to call it a review, because it absolutely was not a review. It's just a first impression. Like, it's like, okay, I just got the watch. I used it once, explored the menus, and yeah, put a video together. Yeah. Do they let you keep the watch? Yeah, they let us keep it. So that's pretty cool. It's kind of like it's advertising for them. They send, obviously all these companies have budgets for advertising, and this is just part of it. It's actually quite common that companies do stuff like this. Oh, Dan double-checked Strava. A whole 397 feet of gain over 11.5 miles. Nice. Nice. Jody, last week I walked 100 miles across last week as I am injured. It was a long week. Whoa. Walking 100 miles. That's crazy. Okay, so I think I am going to give Dave a call. And we're going to hope this works. I've got Skype open here. So let me just text him right now. Say I'm calling. And you guys want to listen to some music? Let's listen to some music while we do this. Okay, cool.
Are we live?
Can you hear me? Awesome. All right, let's go. Here he is. There he is.
Hey, buddy. How's it going?
Good. How are you doing? Good.
I just have to mute your live feed because it's like a time warp right now.
Right.
How's it going, man?
Good. Everybody out there, give us like a thumbs up or comments if things are sounding okay. If one of us is too loud or too quiet, let me know and I can adjust that. I know last time I had some issues. I was a little bit too quiet. And so, yeah, just give us a comment. Let us know.
How's my audio this time? Is my mic working?
Yeah, it's good.
Okay, good.
Yeah. All right, cool. So we have one question. Well, first of all, how about you just go through, tell us like how your first run with the watch was, just like kind of how your experience of this whole process went.
Yeah, it was funny listening to your experience with Polar, because I kind of shared the same experience with that short timeline of like, oh crap, UPS just showed up. I have to go for a run, film, edit, and then get this thing out tomorrow. And it was a struggle. The weird part for me was I actually had the watch early. I had this one. And it turned out that this was like a pre-release watch, and it turned out to be faulty. So I wasn't able to fully test out this one. So they sent me a new one, and that one I was able to test out. But unfortunately, I only had this one for like a day and a half before I had to get the video out. So yeah, so it showed up at like 7:30 a.m. I was like anxiously waiting for the UPS man to arrive out in front of my house. I literally ripped it out of the box, threw it on the charger, paired it with my phone, and then I like structured my day like, I'm gonna go for a run, I'm gonna wear all my watches, and then I'm gonna film a video about it. So yeah, I think it went well, and I kind of knew it. To be fair, I knew what to expect because I have reviewed Polar watches in the past, and they're all pretty similar, even though the Grit X had a lot of really cool new features. And I'm still wearing it now, so that's a good sign. You still wearing yours? Let's see it. Is it on there?
I'm not wearing it. Right. This Apple Watch is my daily, like it integrates with the iPhone so well. And it's so light and just so smooth. Like I love it. It's
funny. I keep getting comments on my videos like, dude, you got to try that Apple Watch. That's where it's at. And I still haven't done it. I don't know. I really like the battery life I get out of the dedicated running watch. And I know what do you get, like 8 hours out of an Apple Watch on GPS mode?
I don't know. I haven't tested it all the way. I have gone for, I think I did a 15 miler the other day, and that was like 2.5 hours or so. But yeah, I mean, I think, and at the end of it, I still had like 75% battery.
That's not bad.
I think like the GPS running, like activity part of it is actually doesn't drain the battery as much as I expected it to. It feels like having it paired with the phone and getting all the notifications and constantly talking back and forth drains it almost just as much as going out for a run. So yeah, I mean, it's probably a little bit more like if I didn't run, it would probably drain slower. But I mean, yeah, like a 2.5 hour run, it used 25% of the battery. It wasn't too bad. And yes, so when we're talking about like sport watches, that's horrible. Like
that's not horrible. Like you could do like a 50 miler with that probably.
Well, if you're really fast, yeah.
Depends on the 50, I guess, right?
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's for a smartwatch that is an extension of an iPhone and helps you use your iPhone better. And just like all the cool features of Siri and everything, like it's a really great watch for iPhone users. And then the fact that it can allow you to go run and track it actually pretty well. Got a good heart rate sensor, things like that. It's just like, that's like the extra part of the watch. It's definitely not a sports watch that you can use every day like this is. Like this is not an everyday watch. It's a sport GPS watch.
Speak for yourself, man. I'm wearing it every day.
Yeah. But yeah. The Apple Watch, I just like it a lot.
Yeah. Koros, that is all. Tell me why I'm wrong. Ultra Dad says. Sorry, I had to point that out. I saw it.
Oh, we can go there.
Yeah. Well, you know, Koros is great, man. I want to give them kudos. I don't know how much of a tangent you want to go off on this whole watch thing, but you brought me on. You know what I'm all about.
No, for sure. I'm gonna try and one thing that someone said was I got to put your name on the screen. So I'm going to see if this works. Because people to talk
chorus while you do your techie stuff over there.
Yeah.
The reason why you're wrong. Well, no, you're not wrong. I like Koros. I think they have fantastic class-leading battery life. Like you can't beat the battery life you get out of those things, especially the Vertix. It's like a joke. I actually lost the charging cable to my Vertix because I never had to plug it in. True story. And that's what they're good at. They're also really good at being like super minimalistic. Like I like that you can just take them out of the box. You roll that dial. You're like, you're ready to go. I mean, I got the Apex Pro right here, and I'm a huge fan of it. The problem I have with it is it's kind of limited in the ecosystem. I don't like that they don't have the web environment, the portal, to like go in and download your data in a spreadsheet. I don't like that. You can't, like their app is kind of limiting. It's not like super straightforward. And like the watch itself kind of relies heavily on your phone more than it does itself. Like the what is it, the recovery advisor thing, it's just like a little widget at the top of your activities, that AI trainer thing. It just feels like kind of, I don't know, kind of primitive. But I am hopeful because they've only been in the game for like 2 years, and they were like catching up really fast to, you know, the Garmin stuff. So I'm pretty impressed with them. I do think they need a couple of years to kind of polish up their whole ecosystem and maybe start offering like apps and stuff like that. I think that'll come eventually. And anybody who does the maps first, I think will, I know you're not a big map user, Ryan, but yeah. I think that's it's a selling point to a lot of people I know. So I feel like somebody who does that first will, or they partner with, Map My Run or something, and they find a way to integrate that. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
So you're not wrong. No one's wrong about a watch. Whatever you want to wear is what, and whatever you can afford, really.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Tangent over.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Let's see. Was there questions? Jody had a question. I wanted to come back to this. We'll get into some more about the Polar watch. So here's a question about it right here. Does the watch allow you to pre-program intervals, especially with variable ones such as ladders or pyramid workouts?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does allow you to import workouts, just like some other watches do. It's got this the hill feature. I know you wanted to talk about that. That is pretty cool. I just kind of dove into it a little bit more. Interesting. I think it has room to grow, but very, very cool feature to have, kind of as like a first generation feature that not like Garmin and these other watch brands don't do it as fully as I think Polar is attempting to. Yeah. But yeah,
have you tried the Garmin Climb Pro app?
No.
It's pretty sweet. It's really nice. But the problem is it relies on you having a course. You're following a course. It doesn't work unless you're following a course. And I think that's where Polar did it right, where it always works. It just picks up climbs and descents, and it'll tell you, like for me, sorry, my phone's super loud.
That's all right.
For me, like if I go up north into the White Mountains, I run something called the Pemi Loop. It's like 32 miles, 12,000 or 10,000 feet of elevation gain. Pretty rugged, and it's cool to see those peaks and valleys and like how many peaks you hit along the way and how many climbs you did. And you don't want to always like pre-program the route before you go after it. So I think it's pretty cool that this works like standalone without doing that on every run.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I just looked into the route planning Komoot as well, and that looks a little bit more complicated than I kind of anticipated it.
Have you tried it yet?
I haven't tried it. I just watched like a tutorial on how to do it, and it's like you have to. First of all, it's probably going to be really cool once we actually get into it and use it. But just starting off, so what this is for everybody listening, it's a website, Komoot.com, and it's like route planning and mapping, and you can go in there and you can basically like give it some parameters of what you want, like if you're in a new town or a new city or something like that, or you're just looking for places like around you, and then you can find routes, plan out routes, and then upload them to your watch, and it'll give you turn-by-turn directions. And it's pretty much just like a line on the screen with an arrow, and once it gets to your watch. But really cool feature to have. The thing with Komoot is that you have to have a you have to have a login. And then once you're in there, you're allowed to download a certain amount of maps for free.
Yeah, that feels kind of shady, the whole process.
Yeah. And then after you use up that free amount, like, I don't know if it's one map, like one city or one county or however
I think
many.
they call it a region, and
Okay.
it's not like clear on what that means to them.
Yeah.
For me, it's like the greater Boston area, but there's not like a real clear line on where that border ends. It's kind of strange.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, so once you get into it, like, I'm on the website now, I don't know if there's anything,
I think you can pay like $3.99 for an additional region, or $10.99 for a bundle, or like $30 and you get the entire world for one. It's a one-time fee of a $30 charge, and then you get the whole world. To be honest though, like, I tried the whole process. It was kind of meh.
Yeah.
Like, and like the end result, it's not turn by turn directions and like saying, hey, turn right on Main Street, turn left on this street. It's just an arrow saying, 25 feet ahead, take a left. Which is still cool, don't get me wrong, and not a lot of watches do that, but still not amazing.
Right. Yeah. And it's just like, I don't know what the prices are going to be either. That's the only thing that I don't know. I guess you could go into like shop, figure that out. But anyway, we digress. So let's see. So the hill splitter, I didn't really get to test it out too much. But it sounds like it's going to be like really cool, especially if you're, in a race. I think that would be the best implementation of this hill splitter. What that's going to be for everybody out there is it's going to basically give you targets for how fast you should be going up the hill, or down the hill. Downhill running is another big area that I think some people, I think everybody could use some work downhill running, but being able to pace yourself well, going uphill and downhill, and then it will give you. Is the hill splitter? No, I'm thinking about a different thing. I'm thinking about the nutrition side of it too, which is going to be a really cool thing too.
Yeah.
Have you tested out the nutrition yet?
I fiddled with it a little bit, but it didn't make sense for me to use it on the 1 or 2 runs I got in.
Yeah, so you have to
definitely plan on trying it out though.
Yeah. So you have to run for at least an hour and a half, I think. You have to.
Yeah, it makes sense.
You plan it out ahead of time. And so say you're going to go out for a 5-hour run, something like that. Something that is going to be enough time where you actually do start to kind of lose it mentally and need that nutrition reminder. So you go into you can go into your watch and you plug in, say I'm going to go run for 5 hours. This is the zone I'm going to be in. So it goes off of your heart rate zone, which is really cool because if you put in zone 2, it's going to give you different nutrition recommendations versus if you put in zone 3. And zone 2 is going a little bit easier. Zone 2 is going quite a bit harder, or zone 3 is going quite a bit harder. That's like your race zone pretty much. But if you're going for 5 or 6 hours, like it's going to be all over the place. But what it will do then is give you reminders, and that's going to be really cool. And it'll break down calories, it'll break down carbs, fat, protein.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting how they actually went into like the macros, like how many carbs and all that, versus just saying you've burned this many calories, put in this many calories to compensate for that. It's pretty interesting how they're trying to utilize that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like I also like the fluid reminder, because I think we could all I think we could all use that. It's a big reason why people bonk out on hot races.
Yeah.
Just having your watch being like, hey, drink water every 30 minutes, I think would be super helpful.
No, for real.
Because in my brain, I'm saying that, Dave, drink water, but I don't listen to that. But if it was there, I might listen to it.
Yeah. And I think it's I think we still need the skill of learning how to drink and how to eat during these races.
Not when we have technology.
But what I was going to say is the technology can assist us, especially when we get into these long races. Like once you start hitting 50 miles, you're going to go through some dark moments where you just cannot think straight, and you're just you're out of it. And then all of a sudden you realize, oh my gosh, I haven't eaten anything in like an hour and a half, and I've still got 2 full water bottles, and I'm coming up to the aid station, and it's kind of like, okay, like at that point it might be too late as far as your hydration, especially because once you get behind on that, it's hard to recover. Let's see. Okay. Run Brady, finally ditching my Suunto 9 Barrow. Koros Apex Pro will be here soon. Cool, man. You're going to have better battery life, I can tell you that. Suunto 9, getting rid of it. Too bad, Suunto. I still like my Suunto. It pairs really nicely with my Stride pod, so that's cool. But I don't ever wear the Suunto as a daily watch. It's too big.
Hey, I was curious, on the Grit X, how did you find the running power without a sensor? I know you know your body pretty well for the running power, so
yeah,
you should have a good feel for what seems accurate or not.
So the running power, I'm going to, sorry, I think you're going to get booted off the screen here, but
it's okay.
This is my running power for this run I did this morning. The purple line is the Stride Pod, and the green line is the Polar Grit X. And as you all can see here, they're trending almost identically, which is very, very weird to me. Like, I did not think that this was going to happen. Like, there's quite a few spots where it's where it does give you some power spikes and it doesn't follow it exactly, but I could not believe this. Now, I wish they were calibrated a little bit better because obviously my training is focused around power. And so when I load in these power numbers to Training Peaks, they have to stay consistent, or else it's gonna tell me that I was working way too hard for that run. And then when I switch back to the Stride Pod, it's going to say that I wasn't working hard enough. So I don't know if I'm going to actually be able to use this. I kind of feel like I'll probably need to keep using the Stride Pod because if all of a sudden, so this was the problem. This problem happened when I was using my Koros Vertex for a couple weeks, and that was loading in power from the
Dynamics pod.
Yeah, the Koros Dynamics pod, and that was just like all over the place, like totally random numbers as far as I'm concerned. Other people might have different opinions, but like, no,
it's kind of the vibe.
I know quite a bit about power, and it was just random. It was focused more about how hard are you shaking the pod. But so when that information started to get loaded into Training Peaks, all of a sudden it was telling me that I was like nailing my workouts, and I was just like my performance management chart was just like spiking like crazy. But it was because I was loading in these runs that were averaging like 415 watts when I should have been averaging quite a bit lower than that. And it's just the different, like all these pieces of gear that are coming out nowadays that have running power, none of them are calibrated. So that's the problem. Like in the cycling world, a lot of these power meters are pretty calibrated, and they'll be different by a few watts here and there. I mean, you can go to DC Rainmaker's website and look at them, but they're all like pretty close. And so you can switch from a certain power meter to another, and it's going to be within the same ballpark. But right now with running, it's just all over the place.
I think it's a lot like most of the metrics you get out of these watches, like people who keep a real good eye on their step count. I mean, I don't, but that's kind of a thing that's different on every single device in the world. There's no calibrated step counter out there. And I think the same goes for power for sure. You're going to get a different value depending on the device you have. So if you find something that works, you probably want to stick with it. You know, like you said, like you'll be using the Stride Pod.
Yeah,
I find the power pretty cool. Like I'm not really hardcore into the running power, but now that I have it, it felt, I don't know, it felt kind of helpful to have that visible while I was running. To know, like, if I go on an all-out sprint, this is where I was at, so I should stay within some margin of that. I don't really train for power, but I could see the value of utilizing it.
Yeah, and I can go back here real quick. I'll show everyone here. So I did a few of these places. I had stopped to walk to like film a little bit on the watch. And one thing I liked is that it was actually giving me data during those points. Whereas another brand, the Coros Dynamics Pod, as soon as you started walking, it just gave you a 0 power reading. Which was really frustrating because walking is not 0 power. Like you're still using energy to walk. So I was really happy to see that. This, like, the power it was generating from the wrist was really very close to the power that the Stride Pod was generating, which is pretty much the industry standard right now for running power. They're kind of, there's not many of them out there, but it's pretty much what things are being tested against at this point. But yeah, I was impressed with it. Like I did not expect it to work as well as it did.
I'd be interested to see how it works on like softer terrain or gravel or the type of thing where you're expending more energy but not necessarily moving faster. I think that would be a harder job for it to pin down the power without being on your foot.
Yeah. Especially like trails too, because that was one thing that the Coros Pod doesn't work. It doesn't give you power during trail running, that was just a pod that you clipped on the back of your shorts. Yeah. Let's see, a couple questions. Ultradad has a comment. I just don't find myself using the Garmin stuff, the features, etc. For me, minimalist is good. Yeah, absolutely. No more running 100K with a battery cable hanging off my wrist and arm. I hear you there.
It's so liberating the day you can get rid of that battery bank.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. All my hundreds that I've completed, I've had a cable hanging off my watch for at least a little bit, but it's not too bad in the middle of the night. Like you're doing a lot of hiking anyway.
It's not bad if it's with a watch where you can actually wear it while you're using it, while you're charging it. But like the Garmin's have it's like a USB cable sticking out of the back, so you got to like clip it to your vest or like find a way to stick it somewhere so you can't even look at it, and it's not collecting heart rate data or any of that stuff. So it's a bummer.
Yeah. Okay, so Jody Runs says, I currently have a Suunto Spartan Ultra, and I'm looking to update, but hate the inability to preload intervals such as ladders. Was looking at going back to Garmin, but this may be a better option. So yeah, I think with this being able to load workouts in, I think you're gonna be good there. And then Ultradad Komoot sounds like Garmin heat maps.
Not really.
Yeah.
Garmin heat maps are like it kind of shows where people trend to run. Where Komoot, you can actually design and choose where you want to go. You don't necessarily have to follow other people's routes, although you can search for popular routes.
Yeah. I don't know. I haven't looked into Komoot too much other than just browsing the site. DB says, nutrition features seem great in concept, but I've always found these functionalities a bit lacking given their inherent generic nature. Yeah, that's how these things have generally been in the past. They have been very generic and pretty useless. This actually, and I'm not just saying this because Polar gave me this watch, but I'm saying it because actually looking into it, I do think that it can be useful. I think that it has the capability to really be a help out there, especially especially if you're in an ultra race and you don't have a pacer. You need something reminding you to eat and drink. And then with this, it learns your basically your nutritional needs, because you can give it feedback afterwards. So
yeah, I got similar comments in my video about the nutrition planning, and I'm actually really excited about it. I think it has a lot of potential, and I like that they put in manual options in there, so you don't have to rely on like their computer. So you may find a setting that works for you, and you can just keep using that. You don't need to worry about their algorithms. Or the smart part of it is just a notification that pops up to tell you to drink and eat. Some of us might need that.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, so DB asked a good question. Why use power as a parameter during training? Dave, have you ever really trained by power?
Nope.
Okay.
I always viewed it as like, now that I've learned more about it, I've always viewed it as just training, like a fancy way to train to your heart rate. And that's kind of what I've stuck by. Like, I know my max heart rate, I know my absolute 100% effort, and I know how to dial back from that and then use a middle ground for training, or like push into that anaerobic zone to try to increase the VO2 max, or get that kind of training in. But I do see the value in the power now that I've learned more about it. It's definitely new to me. It's definitely like, it seems a little bit voodoo magic, but I do understand, because I'm not a cyclist. I feel like every cyclist knows the theory behind power, right?
Yeah. I mean, the theory behind power for cycling is that it's everything. It's the beginning of the game. It's the end of the game. Like, power is everything. But with a bike, it's easy to measure that power, because you're taking a measurement from a machine, and it's measuring at the crank, and it's measuring force equals mass times acceleration. So it's how hard are you pushing on the pedals and how fast are you turning them. That's a very simple way to explain power, but that's what it is. And so it's like, how hard are you pushing on the pedals? How fast are you turning them? And then based off of those numbers that you're pulling out of there, you can plan whole races. You can plan climbs. You can plan everything. You can plan your whole season based off of power, because, and you can also kind of tell like who's gonna, if you're going up against somebody, you just if you're a cyclist, you can go up to them and be like, "What's your watts per kilogram?" And be like, "Okay, well, let me think about that here." And so, okay, I'm a 3.5. Well, I'm a 3.7, so I'm probably going to beat you on this course over here. And it's actually like, those are actually numbers that really, really matter, because the more power you can generate versus how heavy your bike is or how light you are. If you can, lose 5 pounds and then gain a few watts on your FTP, like, you can be a much, much faster cyclist. So coming to running, it's a very hard thing to measure, because you don't have a machine that you can measure force, mass, acceleration. Like, you can't measure that. So what they're basically doing, and this is where Stride kind of like pioneered this, like, way back. I mean, it was only like maybe like 10 years ago, but it started, I believe it started as a chest strap, and then it moved to the foot pod. But it is using accelerometers and a barometric altimeter, and it's putting all of that data together and basically trying to give you a pretty similar number to that power, those watts that are coming out of cycling. But it's also, there's a lot of, and also the new Stride Pod has a wind sensor on it, which is amazing, because with past versions of it, you're coming around a corner and you're doing 300 watts, and then you turn into a headwind, and all of a sudden your pace drops 2 minutes per mile, and it says that you're pushing 200 watts, and you're like, I know I'm not, because I'm still pushing as hard as I was just like 5 seconds ago. But the new Stride Pod has a wind sensor on it, and so when you do turn into a headwind, it gives you like credit for that. And so it's really great. And like I do all my intervals with it, and I also use it as the main training metric to measure basically like how hard each of my workouts were. And so I'll get like a certain number of points on Training Peaks based off of how much power output I put out.
But what I wonder about is like, how different is it to heart rate zone training? You know, like at the end of the day, it's pretty similar, right?
I would argue no, because heart rate training is based off of it's first of all, it's a very slow number. So if you're doing a 3-minute interval, you're not going to hit your heart rate you're not going to hit it until about maybe 2 minutes into it. And then you're only going to get data for about 1 minute, and then it's going to fall off. And so, at the beginning of that 3-minute interval, like the question would be, what target do you go for? You just, run hard. Well, with power, you can actually, like 2 seconds into that 3-minute interval, you can know I'm at 315 watts, and this is exactly where I need to sit for the next 3 minutes. And then as soon as 3 minutes is over, you go back down to your 180 watts or whatever is, programmed for you to hit during your rest interval. The other side of it would be like during a race, like being able to pace, especially so if you're doing like a marathon or a half marathon. Ultras, it wouldn't probably work as well. I don't know, maybe. I think the best way to use power would be maybe in like a marathon or a half marathon, because it's short enough that you're not going to really, it's funny saying a marathon is short enough, but you're not going to get to that point where you like have to do a lot of walking and hiking. But during the course of a marathon, your heart rate is going to drift. And so if you stuck to, so like say your coach tells you, I want you to sit at 145 beats per minute for the full marathon. Well, your pace would actually drop. Your pace would actually start dropping because your heart rate's going to drift up disproportionately to how much work you're putting out. But if you're going by power, it's going to give you that same wattage for how much work you're putting out. So it comes across as being very similar, and a lot of people would probably say that maybe it is. Maybe they feel like it is just as similar. But for me, like as a coach and actually like using it and training with it, I tend to really, I look at my heart rate to kind of validate how my training is going, how stressed I am that day, just what other factors are going into my running. But I don't know. Did I sell anybody on power?
Oh, I'm sold. I'm going to go buy a Trackpad.
Great. Yeah. I mean, it's just a little bit more data that you can get for, the average person. It might be a little bit of an overkill, but if you're really looking to train and improve, and if you're looking to, like, if you're a 3:15 marathoner and you want to qualify for Boston and you got to knock off 10 minutes, training by power is going to be, it's going to enlighten you a lot more than probably training by pace or heart rate or anything like that.
Sure. But, makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. So DB, hope that answered your question. Jody Runs has a question. Does the watch link to external heart rate monitors such as chest strap or arm heart rate band? Yes, it does.
Only Bluetooth though, no ANT Plus.
Only Bluetooth. You heard it here. Jody Runs, power allows you to keep constant effort, whereas heart rate is variable, especially on rolling hills. Bingo. Nice one, Jody. Thank you for chiming in. That's exactly right. St. Michael Hike says, I understand power from a cycling triathlon standpoint, however, have not been able to correlate it to running. Yeah, it's hard. And it's also not as exact of a number. So you kind of have to take the numbers that you're getting with a grain of salt, but it's going to be mostly accurate. Sus Government says, during an average training run, what aerobic training zones do you try to be in for the majority of your run? What do you say to that, Dave?
Let me hear
sorry.
that again.
During your average training run, I'll put it up on the screen again. What aerobic training zones do you try to be in for the majority of your run?
Yeah, so I'm not fast. So I typically train in zone 3. What is that? The one before, the threshold area. So I keep my heart rate around 150 beats per minute. And then I'll do like one. I'm not really a pro athlete, so I do like one hard run a week, like a hard short run, where I try to go as fast as I can, get my heart rate up, or maybe I'll do intervals. But for the most part, I don't really kill myself on runs. I'm really training for, 100 miles, 50 milers, things like that, where getting that kind of training isn't as valuable, but it certainly is valuable. So I try to pepper it in where I can. Yeah,
no, totally. I think the question about what do you sit in the majority of, I'm probably majority in zone 2, which is kind of like that go all day zone. But every zone has its purpose, and you should train all of them. And I don't know if I can. I
like the way I like to. Like with my wife, the way I explain it is if I can carry a conversation, that's my easy ultra running zone. I don't want to be able to, I want to be able to carry a conversation and not be killing myself. But yeah, I'm also not very fast. So there's that.
Right. So here is my training peaks, and I'm going to zoom in here. This is time and heart rate zones over the last 90 days. And then also over here is time and power zones over the last 90 days. And this is kind of interesting how this over here, the zone 1 and zone 2 are. I haven't looked at that in a minute. But this is a very typical disbursement of time for your heart rate zones: zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, zone 4, zone 5, 6, and 7. If you're training for, say you're training for a 5K, it's going to look a little different. If you're training for a marathon or up, it's going to look pretty similar to this, but the majority of your time, so it says over the last 90 days, 42% of my time has been in zone 1, 25% has been in zone 2. Zone 1 and zone 2 are sometimes hard to feel a difference, because that zone 1 is like all of your warm up, a lot of your cool down. And then a lot of times you're kind of going in and out of zone 1 and 2 on your long runs. Zone 3 is that one where you should really be able to sit in this for a typical race, like half marathon, even a marathon. Like if you're really trained, you can sit in zone 3 the whole time. Zone 4, though, you're starting to get into a place where you can only sit there for 10 or 15 minutes, and then zone 5, it's less, 5 or 6 minutes. Zone 6, this is where you start getting into that VO2 max area, where you can maybe hold it for 2 or 3 minutes. But that is that. Let me switch back to our cameras. Did I just screw something up? No, I think we're good. Okay. No, I just changed the trackpad shortcuts, not shortcuts, but when you put 3 fingers down, you can grab and drag, which is amazing. But I keep forgetting about it.
It's hard for me over here because I'm watching your YouTube video, but it's like 30 seconds behind. So nice. All of your graphs and everything are happening while we're live when the cameras come back.
Nice. So here's a good one. And you might know the answer to this question. Ultra Dad, how quickly does Polar Grit upload to Strava? I haven't tested that yet because I didn't connect it to Strava because we were under an embargo. And I didn't want it to show up.
I actually uploaded to Strava by accident.
Nice.
Because I connected it and then I went for my run, and it actually beat my Garmin as far as syncing goes. The weird thing though is I found that, have you found that you need to hold this little back button for a couple of seconds to get it to trigger the sync? On occasion, it's not happening automatically. It needs you need to like manually initiate it, but it is pretty quick once it kicks in.
Yeah.
I still think the fastest one is Chorus. Chorus was always like, it was on Strava the second I hit stop on my watch. Really impressive.
Yeah. I've accidentally triggered the manual sync several times on this Polar Grit X. And
you know what's driving me nuts is the inability to turn off the lap key, because I keep triggering laps by accident. I'm not big on using the lap key, so I keep putting laps into my workouts. It looks like I ran 100 miles on a 5K.
Yeah, and one thing that was frustrating for me this morning, I figured out in the watch how to switch it to Imperial mode because it came to me in metric.
Yeah, me too.
But it was showing me my pace in minutes per mile, and then it was showing me my distance in miles. But the laps were auto triggering every kilometer. Yep. Which was very frustrating because I wasn't used to that. But I figured out how to switch it, and it's an odd way to switch it. I had to go into the app, and within the Run Sport, there's a place that says how often do you want it to trigger a lap, and you have to like manually type in the miles. And
I feel like every Polar user would be like, oh, that makes sense, because it's been like that forever. I reviewed the Polar Ignite, I don't know, 3-4 months ago, and it was the same thing. I thought it was actually defective, because I switched it to Imperial, and then I went for a run, and it's like every kilometer it's going buzz, but I'm like, what's going on? I actually had to Google it, look in the manual, and then I finally found that setting, like you said. Pretty common complaint, I think.
Yeah, that actually happened to me on my Garmin 910 XT one time during a race. It was the Muncie Half Ironman, and it was so frustrating because when I got I was in multisport mode, and for some reason multisport mode had switched to metric without me knowing, and so the whole time during the bike and the run, it was showing me everything in kilometers, and I had no idea what I was doing because at that point I was just doing everything based off of heart rate and pace. And so when I was doing the final, the half marathon, it was showing me my pace in kilometers, and all the laps were in kilometers. And I know there's probably most of the people watching this right now are laughing at me, but I didn't know what I was doing.
I think ignorance is bliss. You probably performed really well at that Ironman.
Well, at first I thought I was doing like a 4-minute mile. I was like, whoa.
Just like the VO2 max estimate on the Grid X.
Yeah, that's interesting too. Alexander Will asks, how does the Polar Grit compare to the Suunto 9 or the Phoenix 6? My mind, they're really similar. You can get down to the details, and there's going to be a lot of differences. I think the biggest thing that people care about is battery life, and how easy it is to use. What are your thoughts on that?
So in my mind, the Phoenix 6 is in a whole different level. I mean, you just get it's for people who care about all the features, right? Like Phoenix 6 can play music to earbuds on board. You've got the maps built in on board, full maps, so you can hit, run me to Boston. It'll actually give you turn-by-turn real directions to Boston using the roads or whatever. There's a lot more functionality in there. It's got Wi-Fi built in. I think there's just more to it. But
even the Phoenix 3 had Wi-Fi.
Yeah, but the thing to keep in mind is it's not a competitor to the Grid X. We're talking about a $850 watch against a $429 watch, and I think at $429, the competition is the Chorus Apex, maybe the Apex Pro. It's a little bit more money, and between the three of those, this has way more features than the Chorus options, and it's cheaper. So I think they're doing pretty good at their target.
Yeah, and I think the other thing it has on Chorus is the online ecosystem.
Yeah, that's huge to me.
And Suunto got rid of theirs. They have nothing anymore. They just have the app. Both Suunto and Coros just have the app.
Did they get rid of move counts? Is that what it was called?
I don't know if it's totally dead yet, but you're not supposed to use it anymore. They say they're going to the Suunto app.
It's frowned upon. There's like a notification.
Well, there's like a note
Please
that
don't
says,
use this.
Yeah, there's like a note that says that it will discontinue. It will stop working soon, basically. Yeah. For me, the Polar ecosystem is really cool because for a lot of the things I do, especially when I'm testing these watches, is that I want to be able to upload somewhere that's going to stay forever. And then just on my computer, I can go back and find that fit file or that TCX file or whatever. And so Polar, Garmin, and Stride have that functionality that I've used. Suunto and Coros do not. Like it's all in the app, and so it's probably about the same level of safety as far as how your files are stored and everything, but it's just a little bit harder to go through and in your phone upload it to iCloud, and then on your computer try and find it on iCloud, and then it's just an extra step. Whereas these companies that have the online real full website ecosystems where you can really go in and look at all your maps, look at all your data, just quite a bit easier that way.
I think another big deal with the Polar or Garmin ecosystem is you can actually export a batch, like a bulk amount of data, like all of my activities for 2019, you can export that all in a zip file. Mm-hmm. You can't do that with Coros because they don't have a web environment. But a weird little note is I don't know, 6 months ago, I got a beta email like to be a tester for Coros, and they were actually testing out a web environment. Nice. It was super primitive. All you could do is you could view your data, but you couldn't like click on the map. It was like a JPEG of your run. You could download the TCX file, and you could upload GPX files that would show up in the app, because that was something the app's missing. If you wanted to like migrate from Garmin to Coros, you couldn't get all of your Garmin stuff and just jam it into Coros. You had to like you just can't cross migrate, whereas most other platforms you can. So I thought that was cool that they were trying, but it seems like it died off at this point because we haven't heard about it yet.
Yeah, they didn't email me. Let's see. Hapless Guitar Photography says, does the watch retrace feature?
Probably a back to start function.
Okay.
So that's probably what they mean.
I think it does have that.
I got a question about that today, and I guess that's a big issue with Polar watches like the Vantage V. They do a back to start, but what it does, instead of actually retracing your steps, it just draws a straight line back to where you started, which isn't not super helpful. Like if you're lost in the woods, you're not gonna bushwhack straight in a line back to your car. So I need to test that a little bit further. There's a lot of functions that I just don't know about yet that I need to just kind of dive into, and I think I'm gonna post like a series of videos about it. It seems like there's a lot of questions. So
yeah. Oh yeah, me too. I'm gonna do another video in a week or two when I have more thoughts on it. Guy Smith asks, I'm purely a road runner. I run anywhere from 2 to 13 miles per run. I also swim. Do you recommend this, or should I go with something more simplistic? What do you guys recommend? Go for it.
Road runner who swims, is that the gist of it?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of options. It totally depends on your budget. If you're not worried about a lot of the features, yeah, I don't know. That the Coros stuff is really good if you just want to keep it simple. That, in my mind, I suggest Coros a lot to people because it just doesn't overcomplicate the setup process or how many apps or widgets, or it's just a pure, like they're just pure GPS watches, and they just come out of the box and they record data. Maybe not the most accurate ones in the world, but they do get the job done, and they're pretty affordable if you look at like the base Apex.
Does that one have different sports?
The Apex?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically the exact same thing as the Apex Pro or the Vertex. It's just a slightly lower battery life, like 35 hours instead of 40 in the Apex Pro. So still a crap ton. I mean, you can still run 100 with it. Yeah. And it's built really well. So I tend to suggest that. It doesn't have the SpO2 meter sensor like a lot of the newer watches, but neither does the Grid X. So we're not missing out on that.
I particularly did not find that useful anyway.
What's that?
I didn't find that too useful anyway.
Yeah, I think you only do if you train at altitude. People get hung up on it.
Yeah.
People get really hung up on it, but like the tallest mountain I got around here is 6,000 feet tall, so I don't really have to worry about it.
Right. All right. How are we doing on time? Are you okay, or do we need to wrap this up?
Yeah, I'm just hanging out.
Okay,
you know,
cool.
just invading your privacy on your channel.
Cool. Oh, glad to have you. We'll do a couple more questions and then we'll start to wrap this up. Joel O'Brien says, thanks. I'm striving to find myself in zone 2 or 3 more often and limit zone 4. I ran my first 50K last year and I'm training for my first 50 miles this fall. Awesome, Joel. That's really, really cool. And then he follows up and says, it's a challenge transitioning to longer rather than faster during my runs. I totally know what you mean. That's a big learning curve, especially a lot of the athletes that come to me. It's a very painful process to slow down. When I tell people, okay, put a heart rate strap on and run, like we're gonna go to a track. The first thing we do is we go to a track and we do a track test. And that gives us a whole lot of data that we can that I can put the workouts together and build zones and all that. And so now your zone 2 is going to be this many beats per minute up to this many beats per minute, and go out and run for 60 minutes. And they come back and they're like, I was running like a 14-minute per mile pace. And you're like, well, yeah,
that's fast.
it's because you've never trained slow, and you got to train slow in order to go fast. If you always train fast, you're just going to be beating yourself down, and you're never going to have that diesel engine that a lot of people call it. But yeah, Joel, right there with you. You got to train slow in order to get fast later. You got to build that engine, that really low, slow is what they call it. Slow is smooth and smooth is fast. Something like that. Justin does triathlon. What's up, man? Been watching your channel for a long time. He says, oh, Suunto, amazing hardware, awful software implementation. Yeah, I mean, it's the thing about Suunto that I don't understand is, yes, that he's like, you're right on, Justin. Like the hardware, the watch itself is awesome.
One second.
No problem. We'll get you off. You're private now. The hardware is great. It's like, I mean, the watch itself, like it feels like it's bulletproof.
There we go.
Awesome. I don't feel like the software has been moving as fast as software from other companies, though. And then, yeah, moving from a full-fledged website down to just an app, and the app is just kind of so-so. Yeah, Suunto, they've got their market share, and they're running with it, I feel.
It's funny, I found Suunto users are just so diehard to that brand.
Yeah.
And I mean, power to them. They're good. They make good hardware.
I mean, it's fantastic. I mean, my Suunto has, like, the only problem I ever had with it was that it didn't reach the advertised battery life. But it was during a 100-miler in the middle of this like monsoon, so I don't know if that played into it at all. The temperature was changing wildly. That affects battery life. There was a lot of factors that went into it. But instead of going for 24 hours as advertised, it died at 19. But
should have just ran faster, man.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. There we go.
That's the answer.
Yeah. All right. Ultra Dad says, what are both of your fall ultra plans? Is grindstone still possible? Man, I don't know about my fall plans. I don't know about what's happening next week, but fall plans, grindstone is still a possibility. I don't know I don't know how many people have signed up for it as of right now, but if things
they still have openings, I've checked. I'm also interested.
Let's check. Go ahead. What are your plans?
No, keep going. I just wanted to entice you to go onto their website and sign up right now while everybody's watching. All 16 viewers.
Well, I'm going there right now, so. So this is Grindstone 100's website. I'm not going to register right now, but there are 222 spots available.
I think cool. I've noticed with a lot of races, they're not filling up because people are scared they're going to be canceled.
Yeah.
So like even there's a local 100 in October I did last year. I was considering doing it again. They're like wide open, and they sold out pretty quick last year. So it's pretty weird season.
Yeah, definitely. If things go well, I probably will try to go back to Grindstone, just because I have a feeling that I just have this feeling that Hard Rock is going to happen, because it got canceled last year, and it's such a small race anyway. There's only like 147 people, and with all the volunteers, like they're probably going to be able to spread all of the people out enough that, I mean, even if they have to do some sort of rolling start, I just have this feeling that Hard Rock is going to happen. And if it does happen, they're probably not going to change their qualification system for next year. If they canceled it this year, I think they would give everyone another free pass, probably, because there's a lot of people that just do Hard Rock as their qualifier for Hard Rock. So I don't think they would, put all those people at a disadvantage. I don't know. I have this feeling it's going to happen, and we're all still going to have to qualify anyway. And so Grindstone's going to be a good option for that. There's not much else in the U.S. Yeah. All right, let's see. Joel Walters says, I'm still looking for a watch to wear for my big ultra of the year, hoping for 24 hours of GPS runtime. Yeah, I mean, the Polar Grit X will probably cover you on that. We've mentioned Koros a couple times. If you didn't say anything about price, but the Phoenix will probably be able to get you that far. I wouldn't count on Suunto. But, yeah, Danny says, Ryan, what do you use to track your runs on Apple Watch, the built-in activity app or Strava? Actually, neither. I use the Stride app, and it's really good. Syncs very well with Stride. All right, let's see. We're going to wrap this up, guys. Hour and 10 minutes in. If you guys have any last-minute questions you want to ask Dave or I, specifically about the Polar Grit X or anything else in general, throw them in the chat now.
Hey, one more question for you.
Sure.
How's your standby battery life going on the Grit X?
Right now, I'm at 79%.
I'm at 60.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
So I charged it fully last night when I got it. So it's probably been running for about 30 hours now, maybe close to 30 hours, and I did a 10-miler.
I charged mine at like 8 a.m. yesterday, so I get a bit more time on it. But yeah, that was one of my concerns, was they didn't state the battery life in the media kit or on the website.
For standby time?
Yeah. And that's something that's pretty valuable to a lot of people. Like if you're traveling, you don't want to carry your watch charger for a couple of days or whatever. The rep said, the sales guy said 7 days, just like the Vantage, which I thought was weird because we got 40 hours of GPS tracking in this puppy. We only get 7 days of standby time. Kind of strange. Because like the Koros Apex Pro, you get a month. And it's also got 40 hours of GPS time. So weird to me.
Yeah, that's kind of weird. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to charge it until it dies, and then I will report back. But yeah, all right. Brad says, I currently have an Ambit 3 vertical, and it appears as though GPS chip has died. So I'm in the market for a new watch. I use my watch to track distance, average pace, heart rate, and vert. I don't have any use for anything else except for a battery that will last for 100 miles. Would the Koros be a good choice in your opinion? Yeah, I would also, so Koros, if you're in the market for Koros, what's the the cheapest Coros out there right now?
The Pace, $250.
250. Okay. So that's quite a bit different. That's quite a bit cheaper than the Polar, but I think you get a lot more for your money with Polar, in my opinion.
I agree. I think this puts the Apex in a real situation, because that's kind of like, if you go on any ultra running forum right now, everyone loves the Coros Apex. They rave about it. Yeah. But at this price point, similar battery life, a lot more features in it.
Yeah. I mean, and that's like what you said earlier was just exactly right. Like the Coros watches they're just a pure, simple GPS watch. Like there's nothing fancy about them. The screens are just like average screens, heart rate monitors, average or below average in my opinion. And it's just like everything is like just average, but the battery life is insane. And that's what sells everyone. Watches like Polar, like Garmin, even Suunto, the hardware is a lot better. It feels a lot better in my opinion. It wears better. Just the functionality of it, the features, you get a lot more for your money in my opinion with this Polar watch. And I would say, like, if I was in the market, if I was actually going to drop a couple $100s on a watch, having had all the ones I have, like I would probably go with this Polar, or I would save up for a Garmin. I don't think I would go with the Suunto 9 or any of the Coros at this point. Just because
I actually filmed a whole segment in my review for the Grid X with going through this spreadsheet of comparing the Grid X against everything in this price range. And like, if you look at the Garmin, you've got the 645 for $449 that only offers 14 hours of battery life and like 5 days of standby time. So not really in the same league of this. And then to get anything close to this, you're looking at like a Phoenix or a 935, 945, and then you're up the $600, $700, $800 range. Then you look at Coros, they have stuff in this price range that doesn't even touch it as far as functionality. So like, I think Polar really struck something here. Yeah. I'm really interested to see how it plays out with like the masses, to see if people catch on, because Polar is kind of an underdog right now. You don't see a whole lot out on the trails. Yeah. I know they're big in triathlons, or maybe they're not. Or in certain sports, people are really into Polar, but for some reason you don't see a lot out on the trails. Yeah. So I'm excited for them. I think it's got a lot of potential.
Yeah, for sure. Polar is really big in triathlon. They're really big. Their heart rate monitors, I think at this point everyone knows they're top notch. And definitely like road running, I see Polar catching on a lot more, but trail and ultra, I think this is the first real watch that they've really targeted trail and ultra runners with, and I think it's a great option.
And they even called it the Grit. Just to drive it home that it's for some sort of like, off-road adventure. Right. I like that.
Absolutely. All right. I'm gonna cut this off. We gotta stop sometime. Thank you everyone for joining. This was awesome. Dave, thanks for stopping by.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. If you guys are interested, I'm going to throw up his name and handle one more time. Check out his YouTube channel. I'll link it below here in the show notes as well. Dave, thanks for stopping by.
Thanks for having me, Ryan.
All right. Take care, everyone. I will see you guys again soon. Bye.